Hi, and welcome to a presentation from the St. Raymond Nonnatus Foundation for Freedom, Family, and Faith. My name is Ann DeSantis. Great to be here with you. And I have an amazing guest with me on this program. I have Janelle Peregoy. Janelle is the Associate Director of Separated and Divorced Ministry in the Diocese of San Diego. Janelle, welcome, and thanks for coming back again.
I'm so glad to be back with the Nonnatus Foundation.
Yeah, we had a great first time around. We did another video, so be sure to go on our YouTube channel or our website, or if Janelle is putting it on the diocese also, please be sure to check it out with the Diocese of San Diego. The first time we talked about the effects of divorce and ways to heal after divorce and separation. And for this one, we're going to focus on the children and particularly the adult children of divorce. And it just so happens that both Janelle and I are both adult children of divorce. So we're going to talk about those experiences with you and hopefully offer some healing for those who need it. So let's start with our first question. I have a list of questions here we'll go through. The first one is that the realities of being an adult of a divorced family is not a topic that comes out readily. Why is it worth shining a light on this topic today? I'll start with you, Janelle, excuse me.
Yeah, it's funny. When I was in my 20s in graduate school, dating, I ended up starting talking to a good close friend of mine, and somehow we both knew that we had grown up in divorced families, but somehow just the pain of the experience, the realities of kind of our worldviews being shaped by this came out, and we just talked for hours. And I think one of the things that is very apparent to me is this is not your standard cocktail conversation. You know, we don't go around identifying as adult children of divorce. But it doesn't mean those wounds aren't there. It doesn't mean that there aren't, ramifications of kind of growing up in that particular kind of family of origin that don't affect us. And certainly don't, they certainly will bubble up in our dating and our married lives. So yeah, I think whether or not it's being talked about, it's something that should be talked about.
Yeah, I agree. And thanks for sharing. And for myself, now I think things have changed a lot in the last 20, 30, 40, even 50 years with all of this. I mean, in my own experience, I'm over 55. And when my parents divorced, it was the early 70s. And life was a lot different back then. So that's what I will say is that I think now in 2020, almost 2021, it's different because there's more resources for families affected by divorce and separation, whether they're Catholic or not Catholic. So that would be my answer to that question.
Yeah,
so we're going to
huge grace.
Yes. Now I'm going to go on to the next one. It says, can you talk about your own experience with divorce? How has your parents' divorce affected your relationship with your parents and or siblings? Janelle?
So my parents divorced when I was 7, and we primarily lived with my mom, my brother and I. And I had a really challenging relationship with my father through most of my adolescence and young adulthood. He's a workaholic. He's not a very emotionally adept human being. I appreciate a lot of his good kind of steady qualities, but he was a lot of the dynamics that were in my parents' marriage kind of bubbled and surfaced towards his relationship with my brother and I as we got older. And he had a lot of anger, a lot of residual anger against my mom because she initiated the divorce. And a lot of that was often targeted at me because he saw me as someone who was a lot, personality-wise like my mom. And so, it was very painful during my teenage years, kind of well beyond kind of the standard, teenage child challenging relation. We really struggled with each other. And I think one of the graces of getting older and myself maturing is just recognizing that, you know what, we're all really flawed human beings. I mean, that's the nature of being human beings, and we make mistakes. And the important thing is we can learn from that. And over the years, he and I have established a much closer relationship. We're never going to be buddy buddy, chatty chatty, but we at least have, you know, certain things that we connect on. And now he's, you know, a happy grandfather to my kids.
Mm-hmm.
So we share that, and he will always call me for a good grandson story. So, you know, it's the power of hope, and it's the power of time, and it's the power of, you know, when you're continually, no matter kind of how those relationships move in different paths, like as long as, you know, you're willing to work on it, both sides, like there can be growth and there can be grace. And it's funny because now my parents, is kind of harsh as their divorce was, and as much as they, you know, didn't really speak to each other for years, now they're friends,
Mm-hmm.
which has been incredibly healing for all of us. So it's nice to see them, you know, be able to be at a party together and just enjoy each other's company.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. And you know, that's what it's all about, is that ability to be able to look back and see that yes, there were challenges, and there was also good that came out of it too, meaning that in the end, maybe the healing process did happen, and that the family could still be together in some way. So I think that that's beautiful. For me, I mean, I said it on the first question that, you know, my parents divorced a very long time ago. My father is now deceased. They had 4 children together, and I'm the oldest. And then my mom remarried and had my sister Jen. So I have 5 altogether. There's 5 kids. And so, yeah, I mean, as far as myself, what I've learned is that when you're a young child, you don't understand people's personalities and why they do and say certain things. And in my own growth, I've learned about different personality types. And I think that that has really helped me to be able to bring healing into my life, because when you look back and see that some people's behaviors weren't because of you or anything that you did, but it was more their own experiences and their own pain. So that's where I'll just end it there, not to make it too long of a story. But I think that healing can happen for just about anybody with with prayer.
And I think you spoke to a really common dynamic. I think there are a lot of adult children of divorce that, you know, really internalize their parents' divorce and blame themselves on certain levels, or feel very responsible for their siblings. And a big part of that healing for us is letting that go, recognizing it wasn't on us.
Yes, I agree. I agree. And something else that this was just something that I've been enlightened about in the last few years that I knew nothing really about before in the realm of psychology, is that there are certain things called personality disorders too. And when you see certain characteristics in some people, and you might think that it has to do with you, but then you read it off and think, oh my gosh, you know, you see that in the person. And it just enables us to open up our eyes to see that, you know, God is with us no matter what. And a lot of things aren't our quote, our fault, right? I mean, it's just the way a life can be. We live in a world that does encompass sin, right? So there are going to be certain elements of our lives that maybe we just don't understand. And like you said, we can let that go. So what that brings me to the next question. We have some young adults experience that issues from their parents' divorce arise at later points in their lives. How has your parents' divorce affected your experience of dating? Now, you and I are older, right? And we're married. So this question may be geared for somebody who's watching that's a younger adult child of divorce. So would you like to speak on that for your own experience from before? Yeah.
Yeah, I can honestly say I'm very happy to no longer be dating. But I'm young enough to have done online dating and been part of that world. And you know, honestly, I spent a lot of my 20s meeting guys and dating guys that were, I was looking for someone who was really the opposite of my father. I was really looking for someone who was going to be very emotionally available, and I found those individuals. But my father, like I said, is a very steady, he's very financially stable. He's got all these qualities that I was kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And it took me a long time to see that in myself. It took me a long time to recognize that I had unconsciously been making these decisions kind of based on my relationship with my dad. And my husband um, is really a blend of kind of both those qualities. He's a quiet engineer.
Hmm.
I wouldn't necessarily have immediately picked him out of a room full of men, but he's got that emotional availability. He shares with me and so much, and he also has a lot of those kind of steadying qualities that my dad encompasses. And so I really kind of, for myself, found the best of both worlds. And so, but it really took that realization of like, oh, I am kind of following this unconscious pattern and it actually isn't working too well.
Yeah, it's interesting how we can look back and see that what some of the things that we learned when we were younger, how it affects when we got older. I mean, as I said, I'm older. I'm over 55. I've been with my husband. We've been married for 30, going to be 32 years. And we
Congratulations.
met and started dating when I was only 19.
Oh my
And
goodness.
thanks, yeah. And from a very, very early age for me, what I wanted to do was I wanted to get married and have a family. I mean, I was one of those people. And so when I was dating, I was looking to find the guy that I was going to spend the rest of my life with. So that's all I can say on that end is that, when I I knew I wanted to settle down. And once I found my husband, that was it. I mean, we were together and we've been together for, I don't know how many, like all together, many years, I have to count it up, but it's probably close to 40 years, maybe, that we've been in a relationship. So anyway, it's such a blessing to share with you on that. Okay.
I think it's important to acknowledge that the rates of divorce are much higher with adult children of divorce.
Yes,
But
they really are.
but at the same time, I think that if you go into your dating life kind of committed to working through and really reflecting on either, through counseling or spiritual direction or whatever that takes, those dynamics that you were raised in your family of origin, I think that there are a lot of adult children of divorce that have really successful long-term marriages. I mean,
Yes, I
really good
agree.
examples
Oh,
who
yeah.
have done
And
that work.
that was part of who I was as well, is that I knew that I didn't want to go down that road, that I wanted to be with one person for the rest of my life. So, yeah. So, and for those who are watching this video, please know that that's what the St. Raymond Nonnatus Foundation is here for, is to hear your story. So you're listening to our stories. We're being a little more vulnerable on this one than I usually am on some of our other interviews, but we're here for you. We're here to listen to your stories. We care about you, and please reach out to us on our website at nonnatus.org so we can set an appointment with you. So go on to the next question. Which would be, both of us are now married with children. What hopes or advice can you give to couples in serious relationships or marriage about integrating their family experience with their current relationship? Janelle?
Yeah, I think we kind of touched on in the last topic, but I just think that, part of my office is the Office for Family Life and Spirituality. So I also do all of our pre-Cana engagement days, and so I'm used to working with engaged couples. And what I tell them, and whether it's, parent divorce, whether it's addiction or any sort of trauma that anyone may have been raised with, the important thing is to communicate, is to share that life with your future partner, with your future spouse, and is to do that continual work psychologically, spiritually, emotionally to address those issues so that they don't bubble up 6 years into your marriage. And I just think that, any engaged person, any person in a serious relationship can take that proactive approach. And yes, it's hard, but if you want to, again, if you're kind of going into this with the sacramental notion of this marriage is a lifetime, you're going to want to do that work. you're going to want to do it now while you still can, while you're still learning about each other. I mean, you'll continue to learn about each other throughout your lives, but yeah, I just can't emphasize enough that it's worth putting in the time to really delve into these issues, to really get to know each other, to be vulnerable with each other. That's what creates the intimacy that really fuels a lasting sacramental marriage.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I tell this to my two daughters. I have two daughters in their 20s, that when you're in a relationship where it's headed toward marriage, the one realization that you both, you and your future spouse, have to understand is that love equals sacrifice. So it's not always going to feel great, look great, and you're going to have good days and bad days. You're going to have good years and bad years too. I mean, I've experienced that too. But that doesn't mean that it's not worth it, because love is always worth it. So that would be my best advice, is just to understand that, remember in the movie Rocky, he said the world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. I mean, to be funny about it, I guess, but it really isn't. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, but it doesn't mean that it's not worth it. It doesn't mean it's not beautiful. And that the sacrament of marriage is a gift that you're giving to somebody else. So, and it's a gift that you give, and it is a gift that you receive right from God. So with that said, and sorry for the, casual there, but yeah, I mean, I think just understanding that love equals sacrifice is very important. Next is that, what is the greatest graces and challenges of this type of growing up in a divorced household?
Yeah, I think I spoke to this already a little bit. I think the challenge is the challenge for adult children in divorce really is, and I think particularly we're both first children, is not taking it, is not internalizing it, it's not making it about you, or there are a lot of adult children of divorce that really are accomplishment focused because they have subconsciously thought, like, this is how I'm going to get my parents' attention, is to win these awards or do all these things, and then the opposite's true. Sometimes adult children in divorce act out behaviorally because they, again, are kind of seeking that attention. But I think a big thing is just acknowledging that you are your own person and you will make your own decisions in love and otherwise. And your parents' patterns do not have to be your patterns. That is a decision. That's a choice. And yes, and you can't control the past, but you can control the present and the future. And as an adult, one of the graces of kind of being in my 30s is I've had some real good conversations with both my parents. Like, this is how these particular dynamics in our family have affected me. And vice versa. And there's been growth from that too.
Yeah, that's good to hear, because there's both, as as the question says, there's challenges and then there's also graces, right? For me, I guess the challenges came mostly in my earlier life, because I do think that divorce does mature young people. I do. I think it does mature them about life, about pain, about suffering. And that can be good and bad, right? The good part is that, Christ can be found in suffering, isn't he? And so when a child, a young person, goes through a suffering, they have encountered Christ. So to me, that is the grace that comes from that. Where has that taken me as far as my own life with the challenges? I would say that the education that I've learned from that age until now has been a process. I have had good years, good times, and I've had challenging times. But with all said and done, is I'm still here, And I think all of us as adult children of divorce, we're kind of like fighters, right? We never give up. And that's what it's about, is that you have a new beginning. Every day we have a new beginning. So no matter what happened with your parents' divorce or with things in your own life, is that every day we wake up to a new beginning with God and with walking with him. So that would be my words of advice there. And then moving on, what spirituality sustains you? And an example would be, what are your personal prayer practices, Janelle?
I mean, I think maybe particular to these questions, as I first saw a spiritual director when I was in my 20s. And that was it was just wonderful to have, and all my spiritual directors have ever been sisters. So to be able to share with religious sisters kind of my journey and to talk about different, they'll recommend books and different prayer practices to try. And it's just been really good to have that spiritual companion, someone to just, acknowledge that God is in all of it. Just like you said, kind of in terms of the suffering and equally in the joys, like God is with us all the time. That is the nature of God. And so just having another person just reminding of that, helping me like sort through my discernment in such a way that I could always see how God was being revealed, was just so critical for me in that period of my life.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thanks for sharing. For me, I think over years, I've had different prayer practices. There was a time when my children were younger that I was very much into a very schedulized prayer life where I had daily mass in the morning and then all the liturgy of the hours all through the day and rosaries. Now I'm at a stage in my life right now where I'm working to now and being the director of the St. Raymond Nonnatus Foundation and other things. So I still pray, I still stay close to God, but maybe it's a little less structured like that than it was. And that happens in life, right? I mean, it happens sometimes that, when you're a stay-at-home mom, you may have a little more leeway when your children are not doing something to go in another room and take that time to pray. But you find other prayer practices, right? Because now that my kids are older, we do the nightly prayers during Advent, and that's so beautiful. And then when Lent comes around, we'll do the same thing. And sometimes pray rosaries together. So, there's new practices replace some of the ones that you did before, I guess is what I'll say. And spiritual direction is awesome. I myself do it. And I also want to mention for people watching this that the St. Raymond Nonnatus Foundation offers spiritual consultation with one of our Mercedarian friars. So that's free. We don't charge for that. You can do a 1-hour appointment. All you need to do is email me at director.srnf@gmail.com. SRNF as in St. Raymond Nonnatus Foundation. So would you have any other or resources that you would want to mention, Janelle, that we can recommend or you can recommend to people watching?
Yeah, first of all, our diocesan website here in San Diego, sdcatholic.org. If you go to the Office of Family Life and Spirituality page, my department, I actually have a separated and divorced page, and a sub-page of that is specifically for adult children of divorce. And I recently added that. And it's got some great resources on there. One of my new favorite ministries is Life Giving Wounds. That's a retreat ministry for adult children of divorce based out of the Archdiocese of Washington, D.C. Dan and Bethany Miola lead that ministry. It's beautiful. They're doing online support sessions and online retreats in COVID. So anyone can participate from anywhere in the United States. Another great resource is a podcast pretty much aimed at young adults called Restored by adult child of divorce Joey Pontarelli. Also just really great to hear and share these kinds of stories. I think that goes really far to, again, kind of shining a light on this issue, even if people aren't talking about it. And so, yeah, my website, the Adult Child of Divorce page, has great resources, books, and such like that. So definitely check it out.
Yeah, you have a beautiful website. You're doing really good work. I'm so glad that we connected and we can collaborate with these videos and hope to do another part 3. For me, I would just echo everything that you said because I know about Life Giving Wounds and I'm friendly with the ministry as well, and also with Joey Pontarelli and Restored. So they're excellent ministries. And also take a look at both of our websites. And Janelle told you hers. Ours, again, is nonnatus.org, where we have a whole page of, they're called outside resources. And on there are ones that are for adult children of divorce and people affected by divorce and separation. And then we have a podcast that's once a month on the last Thursday of every month. Now, the podcast is called Families in Crisis. So it's not labeled as adult children of divorce, but we've had a lot of topics on adult children of divorce on that podcast. So all you need to do is go to Billy Nonnatus on YouTube and just subscribe, and you can see some of what we've done. On our website, we also have some other videos, interviews with other people that are adult children of divorce. So yeah, thank you so much. So anyway, thank you, Janelle. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our viewers?
No, I just want to again thank you and the Nonnatus Foundation for your continual ministry.
Yes, thank you. God bless. So everyone, we will see you next time on our video again with Janelle. We will be back again. God bless.